all good. There's a dog. All right. 2 seconds and it should be up and running in a second. Yeah, good. That should all be going. Good. Right. Okay. Right. Thanks for sitting down with me, Martin. You and I both know we tried to get together, didn't we, before all the coronavirus and everything hit and didn't quite make it. You came up with the idea of today at 3 o'clock, which is probably actually quite poignant given it's 5 years to the exact day totally that we won promotion back to the Football League, obviously under you. First off, I'd like to say thank you to Ben Strevens if Ben's watching. I know he doesn't do Facebook, but I did tell him to borrow someone else's login. He actually gave me your number. He was kind enough to, so obviously I'll get in touch with you. All week I've been asking for questions from Barnet fans. I've had a few from a couple of other people, West Ham fans, Gillingham fans as well, friends of mine as well that have given me bits. So we've got quite a bit to get through. Obviously, like today being the day of the Gateshead game, we're about 2 hours early, but as it was. You and I both obviously watched the rerun, we'll go through and revisit the game with points as well. I'll put together sort of quite a little bit, like different points through your career and stuff, but together with questions like to ask and stuff at, bits and pieces of those times. And I know you've put together some bits and pieces as well to share, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this. Obviously, we're all in this lockdown, so we can't go out, can't do anything. It's boring. So I've done a couple of others for a couple of other clubs, which was good fun. And I thought it'd be a nice time to, on our anniversary, where we got this this special day to just to meet and talk and chat with Barnet fans, just to pass the time for the afternoon, really. And I have got my favourite, or I reckon's my best, but I've had sleepless nights trying to work out my best Barnet 11 and 7 subs, and it's virtually mission impossible how to get this right.
Fantastic. Okay. Take you back in time to 2003, 2004. That was the first time you arrived at Barnet with Peter Shreve and the ex-Tottenham manager, and obviously then subsequently took over on your own. How did that come about, arriving at Barnet in the first place?
Well, I was at home. I think it was a Wednesday night. I took a phone call from Peter Shreve, just sitting on the sofa watching the telly like you do. And he said, Martin, he said, I need to speak to you. So I went out into the kitchen. I said, what's up, Pete? Well, he was my boss, if you like. And he said, I've resigned this evening. He said, I've told the chairman to give it to you to the end of the season, see what you can do. And good luck. He said, don't worry about me. I'm absolutely fine. Get on with the job and do it. So 5 minutes later, the chairman called me. He said, I'd like you to carry on with the job and we'll see how it goes. And that is as simply as quickly as it all started. And I remember my first game like it was yesterday. We played Hereford at home. They were top of the league. We hadn't won for a while. It hadn't been going great. Graham Turner was the manager, and their coach is the coach who's now coach at Aston Villa. Very good coach. Amazing day. First time ever to be a manager and having that responsibility in the technical area at Underhill. They battered us and we won 1-0, I think. And they absolutely battered us. But every player in that team run himself into the ground and to get or escape with a 1-0 win. And I remember all the fans behind the technical area at Underhill when I was saying, come on, we've got to clap and cheer this team. Amazing day. Exhausting day. Hold on, doors open. Amazing day, but a great day, and a day I'll never ever forget.
And then obviously going on to the following season, you started to build a team that got in and around the playoffs as well. What were you looking in terms of the players you wanted then that you needed to push the club on forward?
Crikey, it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago. I'm just thinking of more players, by the way. Every now and then another player comes into my mind for what would have been a good player for that best Barnet 11 of my Barnet 11. No, it was when I've just finished playing football as a footballer. I was faced with a situation of, 32, 33 years old. I had no other career training. And you're probably looking at maybe, I don't know, what is it? It's another 35 years work of how I was going to earn a living. So I didn't have any other qualifications apart from coaching and training. And all footballers have this. It's not just me. And I've done okay in football, but I certainly didn't have enough money to actually have a decent lifestyle. My whole life had to change when I finished playing football. So when that opportunity came around from Mr. Cleanthos to come to Barnet, work for Peter Shreve, and then to be the manager, for me it was my big opportunity for me to earn money and have a career for the rest of my living life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I've been able to go on holidays and have a nice house and look after my children and my family okay. But then, as I say, it was a massive question mark. So this opportunity in those games and for that following season was absolutely vital that I got it right. And I worked 7 days a week, 24/7. I was absolutely non-stop. Everywhere and anywhere there was a football match, I would be there to try and find players. And we saw the fruits of that with some of the players that came in. I had been to see them play. I had done the driving, got the players, and of course the chairman backed me with those players, and we got ourselves a decent team together.
And obviously, the major deal that season was swapping Junior Agogo for Giuliano Grazioli, who obviously put his own name in history the year after that. How did that deal come about? Because obviously Junior scored 19, 20 goals for us the year before, which would have been, ideal for your spearheaded striker. Why the change to Graz?
Well, first of all, God bless Junior Agogo. He's no longer with us, sadly. He's a really nice lad. I really got on well with him when I was coach under Peter. But I just felt we needed something different in our team. And I don't, I'm not speaking out of order and out of turn for Junior. So I had a nice chat with him. I didn't fall out with him. He was offside too often. I never thought he was a good player within our team framework. And he also had interest from other clubs, and his agent was double busy behind the scenes trying to get him a move, as most agents are, to be honest, when their players are doing well, which is normal and standard practice. And I do respect that. So when the chance came for him to go to Bristol Rovers, I didn't think that was much of a step up anyway. I thought that was like, really, going there? And then I had a phone call from a guy called John Steele. And he said, Martin, he said, we want Junior. He said, I'm telling you now, take Grazioli. He's not had a chance at Bristol Rovers. He's a London boy. Yeah. Take him. He will score goals. Just give the boy an opportunity. So, and I trusted John because I first worked at Barnet, and not many people know this. I used to go and take training at Barnet when John Steele was the manager, when I was a gardener. I didn't get paid. I worked for about 5 months, and I used to go in 3 days a week. After doing my gardening, I used to drive to Thursfield, take training. He used to take training on a Friday, obviously, because he'd do the team preparation. But I used to take not all of the training, but quite a lot of it. And I'd done that for about 6 months. So he said to me, take him. Anyway, cut a long story short, I was at Thursfield Sports Centre having a coffee in a communal sports centre like it is people's all milling about, dropping kids off to the nursery. Some people going swimming or playing badminton and whatever. And I was sat with Adrian Whitbread and Damien Doyle, the physio and the coach. And we were chatting away and talking away. And then on my right-hand side, just here, this little bloke was stood there. So I kind of looked across and said, can I help you, mate? He stood a bit closer than what you normally stand, if you know what I mean. Mm. So he laughed. I said, are you all right? Like giving him another look. And he went, yeah, I'm all right. He said, I'm Giuliano Grazioli. And I said, you're not. He said, I am. He said, don't you recognise me? I went, no. And there was an awkward silence. I went, all right. I didn't know that Grazioli was only about 5'7". God's honest truth, I'd never even seen him play. Never. So I said, great. So I called Andrew Adey. Andrew Adey drove up from the ground. We got his contract signed, and we'd signed Grazioli. Yeah. My God, what a signing. What a man. What a signing. What a player. Funny, happy, enjoyed training, loved scoring. Ideal player. And, you know, when it came to getting players over the years, I've had to rely on friends to give me players, just like we did with Grazioli. And I thought Graz gave us something more when we didn't have the ball, and then his set-up play to help the team. I thought he fitted into the work ethic that I thought was necessary to be a top team.
And then obviously with that team, you laid the foundations for Paul Fairclough, in effect, for him to then push Barnet into the Football League. That year, though, we saw your methods really for the first time. A small squad, but quality rather than quantity, and the team ethic as well. How did you build that into, or get the players to buy into what you wanted?
How did you get them to do that? I suppose through training, not having a big squad, having humble, hard-working, down-to-earth, competitive players like Plummer, Hendon, Grazioli. Who did we have playing it? Gower, I think, was around then. I know we got sold. We just had good players all round, and they all bought into what we were trying to do. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Go on then. Yeah.
They bought into what we were trying to do. I explained it to them. At the time, you can imagine when I've just finished playing in my first job, I did have a bit of a zero tolerance style, management style. I remember writing up on the flip chart at Thursfield upstairs the capital letters: capital F, capital I, capital F, capital O. Now, normally it's FIFA, isn't it? FIFA. And I sort of looked around the group and I said, does anybody know what this means? And they sort of all looked at me. And I said, well, have a little think about it. And I gave them a few minutes and they're all sit there chatting, but no one came up with any answers. And in the end, I walked back into the room with that horrible face that I sometimes can have and said, what it means is exactly this: fit in or something off. So I said, if you want to do your own thing, then you go somewhere else and play. If you want to fit in to what we're doing, not what we're going to be doing together, it's FIFA all the time. And everybody, thankfully, worked to that work ethic. We had a tremendous group of players, and then Paul, of course, added to it with a couple of other good players, or a few other good players, not a couple, and then led them to that championship, which was brilliant for those players. They fully deserved it.
Okay, and obviously following that, spells at Brentford, MK Dons, Leicester, Cheltenham. What did you learn about yourself in that time away at those clubs?
Well, as this is predominantly for all Barnet fans, and all the supporters of Barnet Football Club that have been so good to me over the years. So all those times and those trips and those away. I suppose we may as well cover it. The fact when a club comes in from 2 divisions above that you're working at and in the Football League, that's a very tough decision to make, to turn that down.
Yeah.
We were in a good position, and I can understand a lot of Barnet fans being unhappy with me for leaving at that point. But an opportunity to go 2 divisions up and work as a manager in the Football League was just phenomenal. To go and do that. Our last away game for Barnet was away at Ebbsfleet. And round the back, it's not like it now, but at the time, Ebbsfleet's ground was around the back. There was an old dirt track with holes and potholes in the road. All the London buses were parked to the right hand side. And as we walked back to our bus, because the bus couldn't come in, had to stay out on the road, all the fish and chip papers and the abuse, and it was a completely different world. Well, 2 weeks later, if you can imagine, and I suppose as a Barnet fan, I hope you can see it from my point of view, we were at Hillsborough, Sheffield Wednesday. So oh my God. Standing in the Technoquare at Hillsborough, I think there's about 30,000 people there. It was the most remarkable moment in our lives, really, such a transition. And of course, I cannot hide that your wages get doubled to go up 2 divisions. For my life, you've got to supply for your family. You've got to, or you have to. And opportunities don't come along so very often to make those jumps. And when they do, in the job that I do, you have to make the most of it. And I use that word job, whereas for you, talking to you about your love for Barnet Football Club and the people that have got tattoos and they wear their shirts and they remember every game, and that love that you have when you have got a football club. I haven't got one club that I support. I've just grown up as a little boy because my dad was a football manager. Wherever he was, I used to go and support him. And wherever I was training, I used to go and play for that club, and I used to support that club that I was basically playing for. I've never had that feeling for one club like Barnet fans, their granddad and his son and his wife, and then the grandkids all go to football. I've never had that in my life. It wasn't part of my life. So that move to Brentford was really the big jump. And from my time with 2 years with Barnet, I knew all the good players that were around to take up to that level. And I put them into a team with some other good players that were already there, and had an unbelievable 2 years. But it was hard work. It was 24/7, non-stop work, very similar work ethic to what I had at Barnet. And by the end of it, I was, after failing in the playoffs, absolutely mentally and physically exhausted. And my mistake that I made is I should have had a break, a proper 6-month break, for my own well-being, my mindset, mental state. The MK Dons job was, again, hard work. It was a club that had 2 relegations. They were on free fall. And again, I had to go in and upset people, bring new people in, get rid of people. And it was a 24/7 high maintenance job. And then at the end of that season, again, playoffs, a good run in the League Cup. And that offer to go to Leicester City.
That's a once in a lifetime, isn't it? That one.
It was a once in a lifetime, but by the end of it, it didn't last long, which was no surprise for those people that know me. To work for that chairman was never going to work. I was absolutely exhausted. I needed to have a break, health-wise, my own well-being. I took time out to get help, to get looked after. And at the time, it was tough. Everyone thought it was a dream job, but it turned into an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. The results were good, but off the field and behind the scenes, what was going on was, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Okay. And then obviously out of that, you spent a little bit of time out of the game and then first returned back to Barnet for 8 games. But you only saw out 3. Barnet survived, obviously. What was the lure from Notts County? Was it the bigger club, the more money?
Notts County is a big club. There ain't no doubt about that. I know they've gone down again, you know, with the stupid chairman that they had. It's no surprise that they got relegated. Notts County is a big club. That is a big club. They've got a big fan base.
Yeah,
they have a big fan base, and it was a great opportunity. And as I say, you know, for me, it's a job. It is a job. I have to. If I don't do well, as has been seen, and I never complain when I get the sack. Never ever do I complain. You know, you have to take it on the chins. If you don't win games and you don't do well, then you get the sack. And if they decide to sack you, then no, don't complain. You've had your chance. And likewise, don't complain if you win 10 straight wins and get to the 5th round of the FA Cup and a club from the division above wants to take you. That's fair game for me.
Yeah, no, I quite agree.
And I've lived on the edge. I don't think I was ever going to be a type of character that was going to stay anywhere for 10 years. It's not my style. Yeah, I could take a deep breath and I can understand and empathise with some of those Barnet fans. That they would be disappointed in me and my actions and the way I went about my stuff. I can understand that. But also, I suppose I would hope that they would understand that I have to make a living and I have to make the best of it as I possibly can.
And then obviously back to Barnet again after Notts County. 3 games this time. We stay up yet again. That final day win over Burton as well. Was that though a case of you were never destined to stay after those 3 games? Was it literally a 3-game thank you Tony, but I'll try somewhere else?
If I remember, and I stand to be corrected, I do stand to be corrected. It was quite a while ago. It was just to come in and do the games.
Yeah.
Okay. And I literally did just do the games. And I don't think I'll ever forget Burton Albion away. I'm not sure how many minutes it was before half time when Zola had that penalty towards the Barnet fans. 2-0 just before half time, I think would have killed us.
Yeah.
I was stood in that technical area looking across. We haven't played well. The players have not performed. We'd froze, if you like, on the day. And when he smashed over the crossbar, when Zola smashed that ball over the crossbar, I knew we'd win. I knew we'd win. We got him in the dressing room at half time. It was a hot day. I had a jumper and a shirt and my tie on. And by the time they'd all sat down, no one said nothing. Everyone was absolutely scared stiff, I think, by that point. My face was not the friendliest. My jumper was off. My tie was off. My shirt was off. I was walking around that dressing room threatening to kill everybody. Threatened everybody, every one of them. Accused them and said horrible things to them. And no way. There's no way we're going down with that. Let's go out and play. You're good players. You can play. And then thankfully we had that lad called Ricky Holmes.
Yeah.
He was brilliant in the second half. He was the one that really changed that game. He came out and lifted everybody. And then if you remember, we went 2-1 up when I think it was Hughes he scored from that half volley. Yeah. And then in about the 94th minute, Burton had a corner down to my left from the technical area. And the corner was an outswinger and it came towards the penalty spot. So looking from the technical area, I'm looking down at the goal, and their centre back has attacked the ball at the penalty spot and headed it. And I'm right behind it, and I'm seeing the ball curling off of a header into the top corner. For that second or split second, I can see that ball now hitting the back of the net. And our goalkeeper, I've edited too many footballs, I can't remember, tipped it over the crossbar. Well, if that header would have gone in, obviously we were relegated.
Yeah.
When that header got tipped over, oh my God, the relief from all of us on the bench. It was like, oh my God. As a manager, you're stood in that technical area praying that it's going to go your way. And the feeling at the end to have won that game, the magic of all those supporters behind the goal, you know, that sort of stuff stays with you forever. Was that better than winning the championship against Gateshead? It's a completely different feeling.
Yeah.
Completely different mindset. But Burton Albion away and Zola's penalty, I think he nearly at the crossbar. No, he nearly at the scoreboard. It was a mental day, and never to be forgotten.
Okay. Then obviously on to Gillingham, first league title for you, and then back to Barnet for the fourth time. The second title there, but we'll come on to the Gateshead stuff and that season a bit later.
What's
then
the
obviously
time?
the move. Pardon?
It's nearly half time.
Well, it's half three, isn't it? So, well, after what 27 minutes, we'd have been 1-0 up against Gateshead, wouldn't we? With Mario's goal in like 2 hours time. So yeah, 1-0 up we beat. Obviously, then came the move to Eastleigh. Do you think that was the right time to have a change from Barnet to move on to somewhere else?
Are we going to go? Have we gone past the Gateshead game and the championships?
Yeah, we'll do that as a whole separate thing of the season. Once we got.
Okay, let's just lead into that. Let me just lead into that. After we'd finished that Burton game, I'd settled down and, you know, won the game and stayed up and all that sort of stuff. And I had a good chat with my son George, who's quite a bright lad. He's a very bright lad. Chartered accountant, very clever boy, but he's also very bright. And he said to me, Dad, he said, you need to think about your career. He said, because at the moment, all you do is take over teams that are firefighting.
Yeah.
He said, and you've got close with MK Dons, you've got close with Brentford twice. He said, you need to get your head down and get a promotion. He said, you've got to get a promotion. He said, if not, he said, you're always going to be one of these that comes in at the end for the last few months. He said, you'll need to try and build something and get something going. So I thought that was pretty good advice. And so I had a good look at what I did and my training and my work. And I think most Barnet fans would recognise for those first few years, should be able to recognise. My youth team manager at QPR, when I was a little boy, was a manager. My coach, my manager was called George Graham.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I had 3 years working under George Graham.
Yeah.
He was Sergeant Major. We played 4-4-2. 2 tough tackling central midfield players.
Yeah.
2 headers of the ball at centre back. Yeah. 2 wide players that would come back and help their fullbacks. And if you're defending, a number 10 that would come back and help your midfield players. The other centre forward was always going to be one that would go in behind to threaten in behind. I had 3 years under George Graham learning. So everything that used to do with George Graham, I took on with me. And obviously he went on to the other team in North London and done pretty well.
Yeah.
All those things he used to do with them, I was doing at Barnet. same drills, same exercises, same everything, same mentality, fit in or FIFO. It was the same. Everything was from George. Things have changed now.
Yeah.
And when I took on that job at Gillingham, there was a massive change in my playing style. And I think when we got to the Barnet winning team, there was a massive change in the playing style of that team to take us to that championship. So we'll come on to that, as you rightly say, in a little while.
Okay. Obviously, at Eastleigh, it didn't work out. Did you?
That was never going to work out. Have you watched Sunderland in Netflix? That was never
not yet.
work.
No, it's on my list of things to do when the wife's not around. Did you sort of think then, do I want another job? Is that enough for me? Because obviously you'd had the scare with your heart problems as well.
Yeah, the last few years I have had the on and off bits and pieces that have caused alarm and appointments at consultants and the hospitals in Reading. So it hasn't just been plain sailing.
Yeah.
Both my parents died young of cancer. So of course there's always that bit in the back of my head. There's always a bit like, oh my God, I've got to make the most of every day because you never know how long you're going to last.
No.
The Eastleigh move came completely out of the blue, came absolutely, totally. I actually met a Barnet supporter in Tesco's in Henley-on-Thames, not too far from where I live.
Yeah.
And I was at the checkout with my wife, Lisa. And he was at the next checkout and he turned around. Not many people where I live know anything about football. It's all like rowing and cricket and all that sort of stuff. And I very rarely get bothered by anyone about football. And he said, "Oh, Martin," he said, "I'm a Barnet fan." So I had 10 minutes with him chatting at the dugout, at the checkout. And just told him, looking forward to the next games and how well the team's been playing. And we're starting to look good as though we're established in this division. And if we recruit well and add to this group, that we could go on and do well. About an hour later, everything changed. Everything changed. I've got a telephone call from an agent. They spoke to the chairman at Barnet. They were willing to pay the compensation, which allows me to go and talk to them. I sat down and spoke to them, and it was like, oh my God. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. And it was not something in the position that I'm in that you can't turn that sort of deal down. You can't. You'd be absolutely mad. With the players and the relationship I had with the players, I think footballers know and understand that if they do well, clubs will come in for them, and they go on and do better things. And if they don't do well, they all know that they don't get a new contract, and they have to go and often work at a lower level with lower money, and sometimes part time. And I know that if you don't do well, then you get the sack anyway.
Yeah.
The manager's been sacked at Barnet. There have been no loyalty to them, that's for sure. And it goes both ways. So the Eastleigh move, didn't enjoy it there at all. Just didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
And I could tell you a lot more, but I'm not going
to. No, that's fine. And then obviously we're back to Barnet again for the 5th time. Was that by far the worst situation you've inherited in all the time you've been back to Underhill or the Hive?
In what way?
Situation, how far adrift they were at the bottom, the size of the squad they had.
I thought they had some good players. Mm-hmm. I could tell that they were underperforming. I don't go to any of the games, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but I just read and watch and see what's happening, of course. I still know not friends with the players, but I know some of those players and I'm interested in how they do. I don't ring them and text them all the time, but of course I've got an interest. The last day, the Luton game away, we played well. My dog died the day before the game.
Yes, I remember reading that, yeah.
Which was an absolute shocker. He'd been with me for, 13 and a half years, nearly 99% of my time next to me. So losing my dog was an absolute nightmare. It wasn't the Friday, it was the Thursday afternoon. So that didn't put me in a good place. But obviously I kept that away from everybody at work. But when I got home, obviously there was a lot of tears and a lot of unhappiness and sadness in our house when we didn't have Monty. Going to Luton, I thought our team played absolutely superb.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, played very well.
John had a good chance in the second half to equalise, but we missed. But we played extremely well, and I was absolutely comfortable. When they came in after the game, I just said, well done to everybody. That was good. Keep up that and we'll be okay. Then I think we had to go, did we play Stevenage? I think we played Stevenage away. Didn't play well. The crowd weren't happy. We didn't play well. But then after that, we did play well.
Yeah, all the way through.
All the way through. All the way through. The away game at Morecambe, we played very well at Morecambe. And then with 20 minutes to go, Adrian Whitbread and I think Cole Muggleton was with us as well. They came over to me and sort of whispered, I think we need to, Gaffer, we're going to make a change. They're both looking at me like, come on, make a change.
Yeah.
I said, no, we're absolutely fine. We're playing well. The game will open up. The pitch is a big pitch there. The pitch was opening up. We'll get a chance. We'll get a chance. So it went all quiet, just like it just did. And I said, don't worry, don't panic. We're absolutely fine. And I just kept looking forward.
Yeah.
They were shuffled back into their corner. And when I've got that face on, it's probably pretty difficult for them to, I'd imagine, trying to get me to change my mind. Well, when he struck that half volley from the edge of the box into the bottom corner, 500 fans over to my right, I think that's 500, maybe even been 400, but it don't matter whether it's 400, 500 or 50. The moment and the magic of those fans that were sat to my right up in the stand, magical moment. The players, the celebration, the final whistle, the celebration at the end, all those people that travelled all that far and that long distance, they started to believe. I could tell they believed, the players believed. I knew we could stay up. I knew we could. It was magical, absolutely magical. I'm not sure who we played after that. But then when it came back, who? Chesterfield. Was that the last game? That was the last game, wasn't it?
The last game, yeah.
If you remember, they played really well for the first 20 minutes. They got it down and they popped the pass in and they were moving the ball around on the pitch, which was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
It was good football. Good football that they played. And then after that, we just steamrolled them. And then when we heard the scores and the quietness of the stadium in the second half, it was a long 45 minutes in the second half. 3-0 up. Wanted to cry, but obviously you can't in my position. I really thought we'd stay up. I really did think we would do it. What happened at the other ground between those other two clubs, I'm not going to comment on that. It was a magical time. It was a magical moment. Very, very sad.
And obviously from there up to Chesterfield.
Yeah.
Again, another club that's well supported. been in the Championship, FA Cup semi-finals. Quite a big rebuild task to take on. What was the reason for going there? Maybe not trying to rebuild Barnet again.
Well, the contract I had was to the end of the season, so it was to the Chesterfield game. So
Okay.
when the Chesterfield game finished, my contract was up. I didn't get paid on the Sunday, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you're allowed then. I didn't do anything before the Chesterfield game because obviously there was no way I was going to talk to anybody before I finished the job at Barnet. But they, as they're entitled to, they made me an offer, which was a fantastic offer. And explained to my wife that we'd have to move house again. We had to go. I spoke to Tony, of course. Spoke to Tony. Had a long chat with Tony on the phone and explained the situation. I explained the contract that I'd been offered and what was in the contract. And he said, "Well, he did make me a good offer. It's got to be said. He did make me a good offer, but." I decided Chesterfield is a big club, by the way. They will come back. They have got an amazing fan base. They've got a fantastic stadium. They've got a fantastic training ground. The offer that they made me, no one in their right mind was going to say no to that. No one.
A bit similar to Eastleigh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and I just needed more time. £27,000 a week. £27,000 a week. A week I saved off their wage bill.
That's a lot, yeah.
A week. So you can't. It's quite difficult when you let all your best players go.
Yeah.
To turn that round in 6 months, it's not impossible. But when you save that sort of money, and it was just like, what do you call it, a car boot sale? Everyone was available. Everyone was available. Everyone. I was on the phone every day offering players out to cut the wages down because the wages were so high on all the players. And I did it. But when you lose your best players and your top goal scorers both go, and you don't spend any money getting any new ones in, you don't win. Bottom line.
Yeah. Nearly 600 games as a manager, nearly 400 as a player. Is this a career so far that you hoped you'd have had for your life?
Well, firstly, the games. My upbringing as a little boy was a little bit different to most other people. My dad was a good footballer in the Reading area, town of Reading. That was when Reading was. It was a small, much smaller Reading, without the M4 motorway.
Yeah.
And if you lived in Reading, you worked in Reading. You didn't sort of live in Reading and go to London, or people didn't come from outside to come to Reading. It was like Reading was Reading. And so wherever my dad went, and whenever I was with my dad, everyone knew my dad. Everyone. Yeah. He was famous. Like, he played for Reading for 10 years. And he was a good player at that level, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So from a young age, he used to drill it into me that he asked me if I wanted to play football when I was about 7 or 8. So I've played football from when I was a little kid, and he kind of coached me and trained me to be a footballer from when I was a little boy. I used to have to go out and practice. I used to have to go out and do juggling. I used to have to go out and do my left foot. As I got a bit older, I used to have to go out and do 5-mile runs on my own. So friendships and stuff like that at school were just like, what is that? All I was interested in every school holidays, I was training at another football club somewhere in the country, because I could have sort of was open to be able to sign for quite a few different clubs to go training with them. Because I didn't see any friends at school or anybody. I drilled from a kid, and all it was ever about was just my focus was always just to make one league appearance, one game, just to play one game. And he put that belief into me. He had that faith in me. He was very, very critical. He was very hard on me. It's a very tough childhood.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, who's to say? I mean, times have changed now, socially, how we bring children up. And how I was brought up, it was tough. But, you know, I had it hard. When I had a school report, my school report wasn't very good because in class, you could imagine I used to be the sharpest with my tongue and to mess about and do stuff. And I'd be sitting there dreaming about being a footballer. And then my blue school report came home and I showed my mum. And my mum was like, oh my God, that's a nightmare. What have you been doing? You need to concentrate. If you're not a footballer, what are you going to be? Then half hour later, my dad came home from work. And he saw the school report in the kitchen. They both came into the front room. And he said to me, he looked at the school report and he was flicking through the school report. And he said, have you been running? I went, no. He said, you better get your, as an F word, you better get the effing running out there now. He said, because you ain't going to do nothing through going to school. He said, go and get your training done. Get on with it. And he threw the school report at me. My mum said to him, is that all you've got to say about his school report? And he went, yeah, he's going to be a footballer. And he walked out the room. Oh my God, you can imagine. I had it drilled into me like that from when I was a little boy. And he had that total 100% belief in me that I was going to do it. So to play all those games was unbelievable. To finish through injury when I was 32, my knee wasn't good when I was at West Ham. So I was hanging on really towards the end, just hanging on, hanging around. And then all these games in management, what did you say? It's nearly 600.
Nearly 600, yeah. You're about 9 games short of 600.
Well, that's quite unbelievable, you know. That first one at Hereford. That first game against Hereford has got to be up there. It's got to be right up. You know, that day was a magical day. Because if I hadn't won those games, those games towards the end of that season, if I hadn't won those games, he might not have given me the job. Damien Doyle and Adrian Whitbread were working for nothing.
Yeah.
I asked them if they'd come and do me a favour because neither of them had a job. And Damien is now obviously the coach, the sports scientist and physio for the full Ireland squad.
Yeah.
And Adrian Whitbread's been working in America and has been coach of the Puerto Rican national team. He's done a fantastic job. And at the beginning, neither of those two had a job. I asked them to come and help me for no money because there wasn't any money to pay them, just through to the end of the season. And I promised them if we stayed up, if we done well, and I got con for the next season, that they would both stay. My God, they've both also gone on and had, 20, 30-year careers, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And then obviously being the day that it is today with the title we won at the Hive, we'll have a good chat about that Gateshead game.
This one?
That's the one, I think. That's the one. As I said to you earlier, I watched it back this morning, all the way through. You obviously saw it the other day, and obviously I'd done the blog piece anyway on the season, which I'd sent to you, which is why we're actually sitting here today. There's another one going up this evening, which obviously just is the whole day of Gateshead, and I'll plug it, footballwriting.blog, which is mine, which everyone will be able to see that this evening as well. Obviously, the whole season, there wasn't very often where we weren't sitting on the top of the table. And going back to probably a few days, week or two before the Chester game, we signed Lee Cook and Sam Togwell, who were two quite influential players, especially early on. When did you think we've got a good shot at this? 10 years earlier, when Paul Fairclough took Barnet up, there was a good point during the season when I thought myself, it was like, yes, we'll do this. Was there a particular game, month, or were you quite confident before the season started?
I had an agreement with Gavin Mahon
Yeah.
to sign to play holding central midfield in front of the back four, just like Sweeney did when we had that good little run not so long ago.
Yeah.
He was going to be a key player because he was good with the ball. He knew how to defend and he wouldn't run all over the pitch, but he would stay in the middle of the pitch. He came in one morning, halfway through pre-season.
Yeah.
He said, "Can I have 5 minutes?" He was early. So I said, "Yeah, of course." Shut the door. He said, "I can't take the contract." And what? He said, "I can't take the contract." So I said, "What do you mean you can't take the contract?" I said, "You've come in to sign it." He went, "No." He said, "I'm going to go off." He said, "I've had an offer to be an agent." He said, "I'm going to start a new career." I went, "You're joking?" He went, "No." He said, "I've just driven down from Birmingham." He said, "I want to tell you face to face." He said, didn't want to ring you last night." He stood up. He said, "I just want to shake your hand and thank you." He shook my hand, shut the door. I sat back in my chair in my office. I went, "Oh my God, what am I going to do now?" So I went upstairs to see the chairman and he said, Martin, he said, "I've told you many times. I've told you." He said, "Wait till the last week and then the players that haven't got contracts at other clubs, they will be knocking on our door wanting to sign for us." He said, "Don't worry about him." He said, "We'll move on to somebody else." He said, "Just trust me, trust me."
Yeah.
I looked at him and I thought,
Sounds like Daniel Levy. That does save it to the last week. Yeah.
So I went downstairs, gathered my thoughts and got myself together. And then it was a mad couple of weeks. I was on the phone to as many people as I possibly could. So you've got no scouts at Barnet. You have to just do it yourself.
Yeah.
And John Nurse as well. He was really helpful.
Yeah.
So we were ringing around trying to get central midfield players. And I got a text message from somebody. I didn't know it was from. And at the bottom of it was from someone called Sam Togwell, if he could come and train. So he came in the next day. And I said, "What position do you play then?" He went, "Central midfield." I said, "What sort of position, what sort of player are you then?" He said, "Well, I play in front of the back four." He said, "I'd sort of protect the back four." So I said, "Perfect." I said, "Train with us for a week, and then we see how you get on." He'd done okay, and he looked all right, and that sort of went all right. And then Mr. Chairman said, "Yeah, well, found a player." And he said, "Has he got another deal?" And I said, "No one." He went, "Great." He said, "Let's offer him what we can pay him. And if he's got nothing else, he'll have to sign." So that one worked out okay.
Yeah.
And then I think just about a week to go, an agent called me and said, "I've got Lee Cook. He hasn't got a club. He don't live far from you. He wants to come and play for you at Barnet." I told the chairman, left-footed, great wand, not a great runner anymore, a great runner. He won't tackle anybody. He definitely won't hit it. But with his left foot, he can make goals.
Yes. Yeah.
But by our formation that we were going to play, he would have fitted into that perfectly. I'm trying to pass the ball and play some decent football for a change. So in that last week, that's how Togwell and Cook came to be there. And once we got those two in, I knew then that we would win that league. There was no doubt in my mind. I told the players were never ever allowed to tell anybody publicly what I'd said. We'd always keep it under the radar and private between us, that we were just going to be the champions. There was nothing going to stop us. Nothing. We were too good. Too many good players. Too many. Just too good.
I mean, I had a look right through the season records as well, went through goals, went through patterns of everything. And I think up until January, I think it was, we didn't lose more than one game in a month, which obviously set us aside well from everyone else. And then at the back end of that season, I think we lost the first game in March, and that was it. We didn't lose another game again for the rest of the season. But also in that final little period, though, the team selection was very, very similar. There wasn't a lot of change. You could see where you'd gone 4-4-1, 4-4-2 with the type of opposition we were playing. Was that a help having that quality again within the squad, of having that rather than having 25 players you can call upon? Did it make it that little bit easier to select the team?
Well, I can never see the point of having 25 players. I just think that's pointless. When you are the manager, you've generally got 11 happy players, and the rest of them are not going to be that happy. They are the ones you have to manage and you have to look after and you have to take care of, because they want to be playing. They don't want to be sub. They don't want to be doing the training after training to keep them fit. They miss the buzz of the games, which is fully understandable. So most of your work as a manager is done with that other group. The rest of them, as long as the training and the preparation through pre-season has been done, we changed our formation to play 4-1-3-2. So it's 2 up front, 3 attacking players, 1 holding central midfield player, kind of defender, and then 2 fullbacks that could get forward as often as you can, but they can only go forward as long as you've got passes in the middle of the pitch. So if you play route 1, back to front, passes, long passes, like diagonals all the time, your fullbacks can't get there because you ain't got time. If you pass it through the midfield players and have some rotation of those midfield players, it allows your fullbacks to get forward. And there were times, particularly leading up to Christmas, where I'd be sat there in that thing at the back row of that director's box behind the technical area. And after 20 minutes, the game was over. We'd won already. The other team couldn't get the ball. They'd just be running around trying to find where the ball was. And Stacky would have it at the back. Both centre-backs would go wide. Togwell would come back through the middle. Elliott would go over to the left. If we got closed down really high, Stacky could just pass it over to Elliott, or he could bypass Togwell and clip it behind Togwell into the central midfield players, which all could handle the balls. Yiadom, Cook, Weston, not so much him, but the other 3, they could all play. And then when we didn't have it that way, Gash would also come into that little pocket in central midfield for Stacky to pass. And at times, we just passed the blinking ball away. It was brilliant to watch. I'd never done that sort of stuff before. George Graham had not taught me all that sort of stuff. But I set myself out to... No, he didn't play like that. And then, of course, we had the other centre forward who was quite good. And we had the option then of going long to put it in behind for him to run onto. And that is how we built that group of players up. And we practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced on that training pitch. And we played, I think, Peterborough in pre-season. And Barry Fry turned round and said to me with about 10 minutes to go, because I was sat in the back row of the director's box where you get a better view. He turned round to me. He said, Martin, he said, your team's going to win the league. He said, you play like this. He said, no one will touch you, son. No one will touch you. And I said, Barry, we'll win it by 10 points. And he laughed. And I said, Baz, I'm not going to say exactly what I said, but Baz, I said, you can stop flipping laughing. I said, trust me, 10 points, no one will touch us. Yeah. We have too many good players. Akinde, Yiadom, Weston, Gash. We just had too many good players.
The other thing noticing this morning as well, when you look at the table, finished with a goal difference of plus 48. Obviously, John Akindi's 31. So then you've got Curtis's run of goals towards the end of the season that were very crucial in getting some of those results. Cookie chipped in 6 or 7 he got. Luisma as well. A bit like Paul's team of 10 years before that, there were goals all across the team. Although John scored 31, Grazia only got 29, there wasn't a reliance just on one player to put the ball in the back of the net, which repeated itself with your team 10 years later as well.
Yeah, you can, but that way of playing, it allows all different people to get forward. I'm not sure Elliot scored that many, but he had plenty of opportunities.
One, I think.
But pardon?
One, I think he got.
One. But he had plenty of opportunities, and he was often an assist. So I'm sure Elliot would be quite high on assists because he used to play like a winger. It just reminded me a little story that you're telling me as you mentioning those names. When we got to a week before the first game away at Chester, we had the training and we'd done our set plays. We knew that I named the team on the Tuesday, I think, so they all knew. And we went through some set plays, and then Paul Cook said to me, Lee Cook, not Paul Cook. Lee Cook said to me, Gaffer, he said, who's taking the penalties? So as he said it, John Akinde put his hand up.
Yeah.
He went like that with his finger. Cookie said, John, steady on, mate. He said, you ain't taking the penalties. He said, it needs a proper penalty taker. He said, someone to kick the ball properly. He said, you ain't taking the penalties. He said, I'll take the penalties. And John looked at me. He said, Gaffer, I'm taking the penalties. So I said, Lee, he's on the penalties. Lee looked at me with his eyes rolling and went, and walked off. I stand to be corrected, but I think we got a penalty away at Chester. I think we did. And John gets hold of the ball. Cookie's on the left side of the 18-yard box, looking back at me in the technical area, like, as in, I just ignored him. John took the penalty in that style that we all now know that he's got, where the goalkeeper goes one way and John waits and just passes it into the other bottom corner, which is like top skill. That's just like a brilliant skill to be able to do that. Top players do that. Cookie looked at me when the penalty went in, and he walked back to the halfway line, shaking his head, and none of us could believe how John Akinde had taken that penalty. And Cookie just grinning, walking back towards me, saying, I can't believe it. And none of us could. And of course, he went on to score so many fantastic penalties for us.
Yes, he did. And then roughly now, well, about a minute's time, I think, in the Gateshead game will be when Mario notches the second goal and gives us that title. Again,
that was just after Stacky made that. That was, sorry to interrupt you. It was just after Stacky made that brilliant save as well.
No other way. We scored first, then Stacky saved.
I think they had a chance before that as well from a header from about the 8, just outside the 6-yard box, and Stacky went down to his right and made a great save.
Just after.
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah, literally just after we'd scored, and then they went down, and he pulled that one out. Absolutely top draw. But watching that game back this morning, the set pieces as well, the delivery into the box for Mario's first goal, the delivery from the corner, Gash's run across the front of that defender. I'm assuming that's something you noticed that Gateshead were a bit weak on and worked on quite hard during the week.
Well, I think every Barnet fan would recognise that we'd spent a lot of time on the training pitch. That if we didn't play well and goals weren't going in, we'd always have a chance. And this is how I sold it to the players. If we didn't play well, if we won 1-0 off a corner or a wide free kick, it would be a good result. Because there were going to be times through a big long season where you're not going to play well. It's not great, you know what I mean? With Mauro, we put Mauro in for that wide free kick because we didn't think that anybody would expect Mauro to score with a header. So they wouldn't expect him to be even going in. They'd have thought it'd be one of the two on the edge of the 18-yard box waiting to go in. Well, the lad that they had marking Mauro was like a little winger. Mauro can jump.
Oh yes, yeah, he's got for a small man, he's got a very good jump.
Yeah, he can jump. And we had Michael Gash staying in the middle, and from the middle on, as soon as the taker was started his run up to kick the ball in, Michael Gash moved from the middle. He came away from the goal and went round the outside and round the back. That was their main marker out the way, main header of the ball.
Yeah.
So we decided to get their main header of the ball out and let Mauro go through the middle on that gap that Gash was leaving. So we'd practiced that, we'd trained on that. And when it went in and Mauro had scored it, it was a remarkable moment. The players loved it. As you rightly say, it was a good delivery. But the training of the players, because when you get into big games, your mind can go a bit frazzled. And you can freeze. You can freeze. These players didn't. There was no way they were going to freeze. No way. There was no way they were going to freeze. Mauro getting that goal was brilliant. And then Gash's header. We always had Gash starting on the 6-yard box, going towards the in-swinger, inside the near post, anything that was whipped and a little bit short. We always thought Gash would be good at getting that touch. And, I'm not trying to make out that, I'm Mr. Magic Man, but we practiced that and worked on that on the training pitch, that move for Gash to get across the first player at the near post of Gateshead, get that touch. And my God, Mauro smashing it in. 2-0, it was over, wasn't it?
Yeah, comfortably. We could have had another 2 or 3 after that. We could have had a couple before that. Curtis's shot that cannoned off the top of the bar as well, which look when it left his boot, that was going in. But the other thing you noticed as well was that I know Gateshead didn't have a lot to play for on that, but right from the first minute, you could see that it was going to be, we were going to pepper and pepper and pepper until we hit the back of that net. There wasn't any let up, for 90 minutes almost. I think two decent chances. I think Gateshead had.
One brilliant save. Stack made one brilliant save.
Yeah. And when you think he didn't have a lot to do all afternoon, that's the sort of time the keepers in there not, they can be off of it because they've not had anything to do. But that save's just as crucial as the 2 goals that went in as well. Yeah,
there was that save, and there was one other save. We played away at Kidderminster, and I think we were losing 1-0, second penultimate game. It was a hot day. We weren't playing well. And Kidderminster hit a shot from about 25 yards. It hit a defender's ankle and was going back in the other corner, deflection. So he was going one way and he turned and he made a save to push it the other way. I think that moment, if it had gone 2-0, we've done 2-0. Yeah. Bristol Rovers, I think, were winning at the time. Yeah. If it had gone 2-0, we wouldn't have got that back. And then, of course, he made that save. It was a world-class, it was unbelievable save. And then to go down the other end and soon after and to get that equaliser, brilliant moment. And then that geezer scored for Dover, didn't he?
Yes, Ricky Modeste, yeah.
I've seen him a few times. I always give him a hug and a ball. Ricky, you're my man.
And then obviously the final whistle goes and Rovers have hit 7, but nowhere near as good as our 2. How good was the feeling when the whistle went then compared to the first title you won with Gillingham?
The Gillingham one was my first.
Yeah.
It's amazing to be able to sit here like this on a Saturday afternoon and just chit chat and reflect. To talk, to be able to say that you've won 2 league championships. This medal is special. I've got another, champions medal upstairs, and I always said to the players, it's good to get promoted. It's great to be a champion. We drilled that in right from day one.
Yeah.
And the day that we got promoted, I can't remember who it was against. Who did we play when we got promoted? That was that day. I always maintained that you've got to be a champion. You want to be a champion. You've got to be a champion. And to be crowned champions at home, in front of a sellout crowd, biggest crowd that club's ever had at that stadium, for those players were they were like my I wouldn't say my sons.
Extended family.
Yeah. Yeah. We had John Nurse was absolutely brilliant. He never got enough credit for what he did. He was like player. He used to do all the warm-ups, all the training warm-ups. He used to do all my bits and pieces of paperwork. He used to do all the analysis on the opposition. He worked unbelievable hours, John Nurse. He was absolutely brilliant. And like I say, he never, ever got enough credit for what he did to help us get to that championship. He was one of the best. But then apart from him, we had Sam Togwell, Lee Cook, Graham Stack, and Yeardom. Who? Charlie McDonald and Yeardom. Always in my office. They used to tell me what they wanted to do. They could tell me when they were tired. They used to tell me when they wanted more work. And we managed to build ourselves a unit of, I think there's a car that's gone past my blinking house. I hadn't heard a car for ages. We managed to build a respect and a trust. And it wasn't like a George Graham style of management. It wasn't like me in my old days. It was like, well, what do we need to do today? How are you feeling? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And they all used to contribute, all of them, yeared on more than anybody. Stack, full on. Opinion, great with the players. We never had a rule book, apart from on the pitch, which comes from the PFA. Everything they'd done off the pitch, there was only one rule maker, and that was Graham Stack. If there was a problem, Stack sort them out. That was it. And nobody would dare anything or let him down. Nobody. And nobody would let each other down. There was no ill discipline. There was no, well, I didn't fine anybody. Well, I don't like fining them anyway. But I didn't have any opportunity to have a chat with them and say, look, this is not the right way to do things. Between Nursey and Stacky, Charlie McDonald, and all those players, they just all did the dressing room for me. They made it happen, and they all wanted to be champions. You want to be a champion. We knew we were going to be champions. Live like a champion, be a champion, behave like a champion, and they did it. Remarkable.
Excellent. And obviously you've got a really good relationship with Tony Keanthouse. What goes through your mind every time the phone rings and it's his number buzzing up?
He doesn't ring me very often. He rings me every now and then. Every now and then I ring him. I think he's done a remarkable job with that football club. It's tough in a way, that the fact that in a couple of ways. Number one, the fact it's moved from Barnet over to where it is now, Harrow, I think it is.
Yeah.
That's a big decision. It's a big move, and I know there's a lot of supporters that are never ever going to be happy with that, which I can understand, and I think he can understand. So brave move to move it over there. The losses that place makes, the whole site, and how he keeps it going is how he manages to keep it going with all the different bits and pieces that he has there to try and bring money in to keep the club alive is fantastic. He's always backed me and supported me.
Yeah.
Whenever I've needed players, he's I don't think he's very rarely ever said no. Rarely ever said no. We've never come to any disagreements on players. He don't know nothing about players, to be honest. He's got so many businesses that he runs.
Yeah.
He's got so many things going on. He's got so many things going on. I knock on his door and he'll look round and he'll say, "What do you want?" And I say, "I want to talk about Saturday." And he'll look at me again. He said, "What do you mean? What about Saturday?" He said, "Just get on with it." And he'll get back onto his thing and he'll be looking at his screen and doing all his work. And then his phone will go, and then his landline will go, and then somebody will be knocking on his door. He's got so much going on. He don't care. He just says, "Martin, get on with it." And that is why I get on good with him. Because he never bothers. He never bothers me. Never.
Yeah.
He never bothers me. He's got so much to do. Other chairman that I've worked for, "Oh, pop in and see me and let me know what you're doing in training. Which centre forwards are we looking to buy? Because I want to have a little chat and I want to have a look around so I can get, I'll give you some options as well. I don't want your flipping options.
Yeah.
I'll pick the options. You go and sell or do whatever you're doing." So no, that's how it's worked with him. I do find it difficult, and I don't think he'll mind me saying, I do find it difficult because his job, he cuts the costs of companies and how they run. That's what he does.
Right,
so
okay.
If he's got 100 people working in a business and it's losing money, he'll buy that business and then he'll make like 60 people redundant, and he'll tell the other 40, "You're all staying on, but you'll have to work an extra hour, 2 hours every day. If not, you're going to lose your job. And you might have to come in on Saturday mornings. If not, you're going to lose your job." Well, in 6 months' time, and that company's now making a profit, he sells it. That's what he does. That's his business, bottom line. So when it comes to football, it's the same. And when we're going away to Chester for the first league game of the season, with all these senior pros that have played at a good level, and we're talking about high standards of behaviour and conduct, I had to let the players know on the Tuesday that we weren't going, there's no overnight hotel stay on the Friday night up near Chester, because we've got to travel Saturday morning. Well, Chester's quite a long way away.
Yeah, I've been, yeah.
Chester's a long way away. And you've got players in there, including myself, that if it was over an hour and a half, 2 hours, you'd go overnight. It was like hotel. That was it. So I tried to sell it to them. Anyway, it was at an 8:30 arrive at, I can say Underhill then.
No, the Hive.
8:30 at Underhill, 8:30 at the Hive, and bring your pillows so you can have a nap on the way up. Bring your own pillow. Okay. Then we'd have food on the coach on the way up there. No hotel stop for food. So we'd have some food on the thing, which John Nurse and our physio Jade would make for the players on the coach. So no stop-offs at hotels for posh food. So the senior players are going, "What? What's all this about?" And I said, "Well, we ain't got no money for it." Halfway up the motorway, we're going past Birmingham. The bus driver turns round, Rick, says, "Gaffer, there's been a crash on the M6. He said, do you want me to divert or carry straight on? OCD, I want to know which route we're taking because I know all those motorways through driving all the time." And I said, "No, just carry on." 5 minutes later, he turns round. He said, "Gaffer, his motorway's now closed. He said, do you want me to turn off? So I said, what do you mean he's closed? He said, there's been a fatal crash. He said, we can't move. He said, it's stuck. He said, because it's a Saturday and it's nice weather, the road's packed. Yeah. I said, yeah, get off at the next junction. So we go off the next junction, go about 100 yards, and it's packed solid with traffic. We could not move. It's boiling hot. And the players are looking out. The players are looking out the coach windows like, get me out. And we're getting closer and closer. Kickoff's at 3 o'clock, and we're still on the bus. We're like 2 hours away, and we're not moving. Anyway, we're crawling along, the slowest bus journey you've ever seen. I rang Andrew Ady at the ground about the team sheet, and the referee knew about the delay on the motorways. So we weren't going to get in any trouble. It wasn't us being haphazard with our timing. We were plenty early enough. So I was okay with all that in the rules. So Andrew Ady put the team sheet in for us. And it got to about 2:30. I had a phone call from Andrew Ady at the ground in the dressing rooms. Do you want, he speaks all posh. All right. Oh, lovely. Thank you. He said, Martin, that's my wife, by the way. Martin, he said, do you want the kickoff to be delayed? So I said, I looked round behind me. Stacky was sat just behind me. I said, Stacky, we're going to get there at 20-3.
Yeah.
20-3 if we carry on like this. Should we have the kickoff delayed or should we just get on with it? And he said, are you allowed to swear on this?
No.
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. No. He went, Stacky said, delay the kickoff? Nah. Let's get on with it. Let's get up there, get our gear on. We just go out and do it. So I said, okay. Is all the players happy with that? And he went, yeah. So he turned around and said, boys, get yourself ready. As soon as we get there, straight in the dressing room, get our gear on. We'll go out for the warm-up with our pads and we'll go straight out and play. Not coming back in after the warm-up. Let's just go out and do it. Or do you want to delay the kickoff? And every one of them went, no, 3 o'clock kickoff.
Fair enough.
Got off. They all went in. I don't do team talks. That's a waste of time with that stuff. So they all knew what they had to do. So they all came in, got their gear on, not a mention of the kickoff time. They all went out, done a few runs up and down, done what they needed to do. The team stayed out there. The subs came in. You all had a bottle of water, boiling hot day. I think it was 3-0 up, weren't we, in about 20 minutes?
Yeah, very quickly, very quick. Yeah. Mm.
When I came in after the game, I got my mobile, turned my phone back on, and the first message that I had was from Tony Kleanthos. He said, well done, Martin. Great result. I told you we don't need an overnight hotel. Well done. You know what? I don't think we went overnight for the rest of the season. And the players loved it because our mindset would not let anything or anyone get in our way with negative.
Excellent. Right, with that, then, what's your all-time Barnet team then of players that you've managed? What did you come up with?
Well, I've been toying with this all week. There's going to be some very, very disappointed players.
Go on then.
There's going to be some supporters that are going to be thinking he's mad.
Yeah, but that's, everything's open to opinion and debate, isn't it?
So I've been writing this out all week, trying to work out and trying to remember, because I have edited a lot of footballs, what would be the kind of best Barnet 11, and then I had to add to it 7 subs. Yeah,
I did allow you 7.
So my goalkeeper, my best goalkeeper, I think we've had, and I'll be open to ideas. So if you've got ideas from supporters coming in, I'd like some of those back from them as well. Would be Stacky. I think he's the best goalkeeper I've had. Right back, the best right back and captain that I had, a proper bloke, a really decent bloke, and probably one of my best signings was Ian Hendon.
Yeah, go along with that.
Left back, a great lad. If he was your son, you'd be proud of him. Quiet, unassuming, humble, hard-working. Love him to bits. Elliot Johnson.
Yeah. Okay.
2 centre-backs. Bit of a problem here. This was a dilemma. My left-sided centre-back, I went to watch a reserve game. Oxford United were playing against Bournemouth on a Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. kickoff at Oxford City's ground. Poxy little place. And in front of me, for playing for Oxford, this kid had red rosy cheeks, white face, golden hair, looked a little bit overweight, a bit podgy, a bit slow, but he had an unbelievable left foot. And when it came to a tackle, oh my God, he crunched. He was just in front of me, it was me, then the touch line and the lines, and then it was him. I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him play before. I saw the manager of Oxford United after the game, and I said, which ones are you letting go? And he said, that left back. He said, you can have him. He said, I don't think much of him. He said, he ain't going to do it. He said, he ain't for me. So I said, yeah, what's his name? He said, Simon King. So Simon King. So I waited to see him in the car park.
Yeah.
And his parents were there. So I met his parents and invited them up to Barnet. So I brought his mum and dad up to Barnet, showed him where some digs would be, got him to sign a contract for us.
Yeah.
And I played him at left back because I still felt he was a little bit slow and not quite strong and quick enough. But with games and full-time training, he got bigger, stronger, quicker. And then, of course, in moving into the middle was the making of him, I would have to say.
Yeah.
So I would say Simon King at left-sided centre-back between Elliot. Yeah. Then my other centre-back, which I was pleased to sign, was Chris Plummer. When I had him, I thought he was a superb player, a superb person. I got him from QPR. There's a lot of clubs interested in him, but I persuaded him to come. And I think for me, and I also had Dave Stevens, Bonzangala, and also Greg Heald that would also come into that frame. And I stand to be corrected if there's anybody else. But that's my back four.
Okay.
And then this is now fun. We had I've got a right sider, a left sider, and 2 central midfield players. So my 2 central midfield players would be Togwell for what he did for us for the whole season.
Yeah.
As a person on and off the field, he's an absolute diamond of a person. Proud of him, really proud of him. Top player and top person. And then
Martin, someone's just brought up another centre half. Michael Nelson.
Sub.
There we go. That's answered that one. Sorry, carry on.
The other one to play next to him. This is a good one. This might surprise people, but I'll tell you the story. My first game, I think, was away at Southend, and the centre back we had was called Michael Hector.
Yeah.
Who's the centre forward that Southend had that night? Who was manager at Millwall, and then he's gone down to Cardiff. Neil Harris. Neil Harris was playing for Southend, and this is my first game. I think it was a Friday night, and my first game, and Hector was playing centre back, and Neil Harris absolutely terrorised him. Oh my God! I took him off after half an hour.
It was that bad.
Oh, he got the eyes and that horrible face. And at half time, I absolutely hammered him. And it was embarrassing how good they were to how good we were. It was awful. So I got him in the office on the Monday, and our next game, I think, was against Wimbledon at home. And I said to him, you're going to play central midfield in this game, and it's a game we've got to win. If I ever see you play like that on the Friday night, I'll be sending you back to Chelsea, and I'll write a proper report. I know the people at Chelsea, you'll be gone. Never, ever to play again. Get your head down, because he needed a kick up the backside, that boy. When we played Wimbledon that day, he was absolutely superb. He was brilliant. And then when we were winning, and quite comfortably, I moved him back to centre-back.
Yeah.
Because that was his best position. But that day, that game, I think you'd have to say that he was awesome. So going back, my two central midfield players, Togwell and Hector. I had Curtis Weston on here. I had John Doolan on here, who was a good player as well. I'm sure there's quite a few others that I haven't mentioned. And on the right and the left, on the right-hand side, playing in front of Ian Hendon, I've got Andy Yeardon.
Yeah.
You could say, Martin, why did you not play him right back, and why did you put him on right midfield? Because I thought he would give us more in our team and the way that we were going to play by playing on that right side. Goals, assists, tackling, mobility, pace, energy. He kind of had the freedom. He wasn't a wide righter. He was playing on the right, but he could go anywhere he wanted. He had the freedom to do what he wanted. Players at that level could not match him or get anywhere near him. Once again, he is, as a person, he's like my son. He's an absolute diamond of a person, humble, lovely, lovely mum and dad and family. I tried everything I could to persuade him to stay. But his mind was made up about going on to play up higher levels, which is, who am I to complain? Who am I to complain?
Yeah.
That was Yeardon. And on the left, this is the dilemma you have. I've got Cookie. Could Cookie play there? I think he could. Luis Mavilla coming inside on his right foot, which is where he was best for me. Not over on the right, but if you played him on the left, coming inside, you could have had him. But in the end, I've scrubbed those two names out. And I've gone for the Burton Albion second half, Ricky Holmes. Oh my God, he changed the game and kept us up. Not just him, of course, but his moments of magic changed that. And I would have to put Ricky Holmes on that left-hand side in front of Elliot Johnson. Two centre forwards, Grazioli, he would have to be in there. And John Akinde, of course, he would have to be in there.
Speak for themselves, those two, don't they?
Yeah, he's. I also had Liam Hatch. He was another good one that I had. And on the left-hand side, I also had Gambin. Mauro. I'm leaving Mauro out of that team, which is not probably the greatest of moves. And then you've also got in there Sweeney, Gash, Ben Strevens, Mark Gower. Mark Gower could also play on that left-hand side, coming inside on his right foot. And Gash, of course, who was just quiet, hard-working, as tough as they come, good quality footballer, hard as they come, and technically very, very good. And Sweeney, for how he played when I was there in front of the back four, I thought he was captain, wasn't he?
Yes, you made him captain,
Yeah, I thought Sweeney was, I'd never really seen him before. I thought he was a superb player. Ben Strevens, I think he would always have to be close to it because he scored that overhead kick away at Stevenage when we won one night, I think midweek on a Tuesday night. When that overhead kick went in, first time and only time I'd ever played free at the back in my whole life. Proper gamble. When that ball got cut back, he'd done the overhead kick in front of our fans away at their club. I thought that was a magic moment. I'll never forget that with old Strevins. Mauro, how can you leave Mauro out? Gambin. The story with Gambin, that game against Wimbledon, when I was talking to you about Hector, on the Friday before we played Wimbledon at the training ground on that pitch right next to the entrance to the stadium, we're playing the youth team against the first team. And it was the first team was going to play against Wimbledon. So as a manager, you're hoping that your team plays pretty good. After 20 minutes, we're 2-0 down. This little kid, this little kid on the left wing had scored one and made one.
Yeah.
And I was on the other side of the pitch and I said to the other coaches, who the flip is that? Who is that kid? And they said, that's Lou Gambin. I said, what the flip is he doing in the youth team? How come he's not with the first team? He said, we play in the first team. He's playing in the youth team tomorrow. We play. I could not believe what I'd just seen. So we finished the game. We lost. And I said to the first team players, I said, you play like that tomorrow and you're flipping relegated. I said, that little kid, I said, he's now in our group. He's now playing for us. So we named the subs the next day and he was the last sub. And I think because we were winning 2-0 and it was comfortable, we put Gambin on for the last 10 or 15 minutes against Wimbledon. And I think that was his debut. Brilliant time. So that's my team. The subs, this is a crazy, ready? I've got Liam Hatch, Villa, Mauro, Gambin, Curtis Weston, Cookie, and Sweeney. No Gash, no Strevens, and no Gower.
Difficult, isn't it? Difficult.
What?
I said difficult, isn't it? Difficult.
Oh, it's so difficult, yeah.
Right, you ready for some questions?
Yeah, fire away.
Right, okay. Right, first one I got is from John Tucker, who's a mate of mine, manages in the County League down here in West Sussex. What he wants to know is what keeps you going back to Barnet?
Firstly, thanks, John, for the question. Well, I get on well with Tony. I have a good relationship with Tony. I understand and respect how he runs the club. I understand and respect the tight budgets that are at the club to make it work financially. And when I've been there, it has gone all right. It has gone all right generally. I suppose if it's like this, you know, like we're all in lockdown at the moment, you're not working, you're not doing anything. I play golf, I do my garden, I walk the dogs, and I have a kind of a nice life. There certainly is an appeal, there is an attraction, and it has gone well when I've been there. I suppose it's the chairman, I think, really, and it's the work, because sometimes I must admit I do get bored. So that's the answer to that, John.
The answer to that one, lovely. Right, next one from Ben Slevin. One player from your 2014 and 15 team, who would fit into any team you managed and why?
Oh, Akinde.
Yeah.
Oh, Akinde. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's John gave us and does. He's got something different. What it gives you is if you put the pass in behind their centre backs, in behind them, then John, even if it's 60-40 against, he's got such superior body strength, upper body strength. With his arms and his shoulders and his size, he can and is able to get the team behind the opposition.
Yeah.
Generally, he's not quick. He kind of ambles, but as soon as that ball goes in behind, There's a spark inside a Kinde that goes and he finds an extra yard. And the amount of times he's won us games by getting in behind and winning games from getting in behind, with getting penalties, with scoring goals, it's remarkable. His set-up play around the halfway line leaves a lot to be desired. His attacking play off of set plays for his headers is average. Around the halfway line, set-up play, average. Take all that away, when that ball goes in behind, if it's the right pass, and I don't mean long ball, but a proper pass in behind, Akinde wins you the game. End of. He's special. He's good like that. And for a free transfer from Alfreton, that was a good deal.
Yeah, okay.
It would have to be, I think.
Okay, right, next one from another mate of mine, Guy Rowden, who's a West Ham fan. Who's the most gifted player you played with at West Ham?
Oh, Julian Dix.
Julian
Dix, he was gifted differently, but skill, power, strength, determination, courage, mental strength, passion, desire, will, fearless, hard, mad.
Lovely, okay. Next one from Richard Bowden. In hindsight, do you think it was right to chase the money at other clubs rather than seeing how far you could have taken Barnet?
Yeah. It's Richard. It's really difficult. It's really difficult when. Right, Richard. When I was growing up as a little boy, my dad was a football manager, and he was manager at a club called Cheltenham Town, and they were doing okay. And I was playing golf at Calcutta Park Golf Club near Reading, and I just finished on the 6th green. I was only a kid. My dad's car pulled up on the road about 50 yards from the 6th green. He got out. He'd never really come up the golf course to see me at the golf course. And he came across with a newspaper. And he said, look. And on the back page of the newspaper, it said, Alan sacked. This is my dad. I looked up and saw my dad. He had tears in his eyes. His team had been doing okay, but someone had been a bit dodgy behind the scenes behind him and got him out. So my dad never had a job. So he'd been a footballer for all his life. Then he'd had a career because he was a coach in Belgium. And then he'd applied for a few jobs, and he got this coaching job at Cheltenham, player coach. And he got the sack. In my household, we weren't rich by any way. You know, just normal. My dad never had a job, never had no income. He had 2 children. Mum done a part-time job, went full-time. My dad had a couple of years where he didn't do nothing. He couldn't get anything. He was just doing favours here and there for people, and people were helping him out before an old friend of his gave him a job doing deliveries. Our lives, mine as a child, changed dramatically. From football boots, trainers, clothes, holidays, everything changed in our household. I've got to be honest with you, Richard. I think from those times and having those times in my life, when he was a football manager, he always said to me he wished he'd moved on from Cheltenham and gone on to better things when he could have done, and he didn't. And he regretted staying there. Whether it scarred me and worried me for my financial future for myself has probably had something to do with it. You've got to remember, though, it is a job for me. It ain't for you. If it ain't for you, you're going to be Barnet till your last breath, God bless you. For me, it's not that. It's not West Ham. It's not Gillingham. It's not anyone. Not Reading, my local club. For me, it's a job. for you, it's life. It's like you're never ever going to wear another football shirt ever. I wouldn't. Is there a regret? If there's one, it would probably be the team that had beaten Plymouth Argyle away. I think it was a Tuesday night. I hadn't been very well. We won away at Plymouth, and I thought we were on the edge of something decent. I think we'd come up the year before, we'd established ourselves, and now we were challenging. I think that team was the best team I had. But I also knew that the best players would probably be leaving. So that is probably the one I wonder about most. If I'd have stayed, what would have happened?
Okay. I'll break off slightly from the questions. There's a couple that come through on the comments. Been asked to ask Martin, why no long throw specialist in your best team? And funny enough, what someone's asked, actually one of the questions that that you were going to answer anyway, your favourite ever Barnet game. So shall we do that one next?
Well, to all the Barnet fans out there, can you all remember Jude Sterling?
Yeah, I remember Jude. Yeah.
I remember when I said to Mr. Cleanthos, I said, "Oh, Chairman, we've got a lad coming in to sign. His name's Jude Sterling." He said, "Oh, good, good." He said, "What time's he coming in?" I said, 12:30. He said, "What position does he play?" And he looked back at me. He said, "What position does he play?" I said, "He plays long throw." He smiled at me and he said, "Long throw?" He said, "What's that about?" I said, "Well, if we're winning, he'll throw it into the box, and if we're losing, he'll throw it into the box, and if we're winning, he'll throw it into the final third at every opportunity." I said, "Nobody can deal with it." I said, "It's the longest throw you've ever seen," and it worked at times, but at times, I'm not being funny, and I hope people can see it this way. With the Hive and the wind at the Hive, I thought, because the stands are not big enough, you can't stop the wind coming in there, and sometimes it blows a gale right down that pitch. I thought it was a decent person to have on the subs bench. And like I said, if you're winning, he can throw it to the other end of the pitch against the wind. He can still throw it into the final third and takes the team up the pitch and gives your back four a chance to rest, concentrate, and refocus. And obviously, if you need a goal, it's a massive weapon, and it's very difficult to play against. Is it pretty? No, but it's an option. Yeah.
Okay, and then what's your favourite ever Barnet game then?
Crikey. Hereford's got to be in there at home. I remember all their yellow balloons and everyone. My first ever game. I don't think I'll ever forget that. That's magic. Burton away, just massive relief. Staying up that day was magical. Morecambe away, all those supporters that I went to see at the end of the game, that was magic. But I don't think anything's ever going to touch or get close to the game against Gateshead, which I watched late night the other night. You just sat here grinning. I've contacted all the players this week that we had, most of them. I've got their numbers still to remind them that today's the centenary and what a magic time, and thanked them for everything they did for me during that period. I think it would have to be favourite game for Barnet has got to be the Gateshead Championship winning game. Although beating Bristol runners-up Rovers was also good when I think we went down to 10 men, didn't we? and we defended with 10 men so valiantly. That was good when we beat them at home. No, Gateshead.
Gateshead, definitely thought it might be. And then the flip side to that, the worst one?
Worst one. It was a big day. When I came back, it was at the Hive, and I think there's about 28 players at the club. 28. We had a decent couple of little results, and then we played at home on a hot day against Halifax. Gregory played up front, and the centre half that went on to play for Barnsley was playing centre back. Flipping heck. Could have said something else then. We lost 4-1 at home.
Yeah. They
absolutely terrorised us. And I remember like it was 5 minutes ago. The players all came into the dressing room, and it was near the end. It must have been near the end of the season. The players all came into the dressing room and just said, "Chaps, I'm going to have to make a lot of changes." I didn't shout. I'm going to have to make a lot of changes. That's nowhere near good enough, and there's going to be a lot of changes. And when I went out, drove out, got onto the M25 up there near Watford, and I remember driving round about 50 mile an hour, no radio on. And I had a fierce then determination that that group of players would have to be changed. The culture, the amount of players, everything about it had to be changed. I never really wanted to ever go through losing 4-1 at home. And they were part-time. They were part-time, I think.
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
They just absolutely smashed us into bits. So there needed to be a lot of work. I think that day, I wouldn't say it was my worst day, but it was a bad day. It was a bad day. I don't think there's been that many worse days at Barnet. Nice. Worst day? Oh yeah, definitely. This one overtakes it. The worst day was definitely the Chesterfield game. The amount of work, the effort, the commitment of the supporters and the players, the camaraderie that we'd all built up on and off the field, and the togetherness and the spirit, the noise levels of the Barnet fans. 3-0 up, and the place was silent. I was silent. I was gobsmacked. And you just sat there on that technical area. My wife was checking the scores all the time up behind me. So I was getting the score updates all the time from the other club. And like I said earlier, you could have sat there and cried. It was horrendous. And she had the reports coming in from somewhere, God knows. There'd been no shots in that game, nothing happening. And the reports, and it was obvious what was happening. That one.
Okay. I was going to go back to the questions, but then I'm reading through the comments again. I'm sure someone's been reading the list of what you were going to talk about that you gave to me earlier in the week, but I don't know how that's happened anyway. What does Martin think of Darren Curry and the future for Barnet?
I'm glad someone's asked that. I know Darren Curry. I used to play at West Ham.
Oh, did you?
Yep. I was a more senior player. He was one of the younger ones coming through. He always had a nice smile on his face. He had a lovely left foot. He had good skills. He was very confident. He was always well-spoken. He was always on the edge of the banter. He had a good personality. Had an opinion as a young boy. He could mix it with the senior players, especially the more confident senior players, like perhaps in my little group. I've watched his career throughout and how well he did it to Barnet. I enjoyed speaking to him when he was working at Dagenham. I came across him many, many times and always had a good handshake and a hug with him. His opportunity that he's got now with his job at Barnet, I really hope he does well. I think he plays a good style of football. I like it that all the Barnet fans are going to give him 100% support and backing, because when he was a player here, he done a great service, I believe. And I think football supporters generally can be very, very quick to be negative and attack managers. And let me tell you all, it does not help your manager or your team when you criticise your manager and criticise the negative crap that gets bandied about. I think it's perhaps society, and now you can get on social media, can't you, behind the keyboards and just type in any old crap. I think they've been good with Darren Curry. I was expecting, if the season was to go on, I thought they might have had a chance at that last playoff place, because you're going to lose a few games, even though you've got a lot in hand. The fact he's lost Jack Taylor, he's not going to because when you lose your best players, you don't win as many games. But I think he's done really well.
Made a lot of difference, though.
Pardon?
Losing Jack hasn't made a lot of difference. One loss in 17 games before the games were suspended.
Well, that's the sort of form that would take you up.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the signings, the centre forwards that they've signed, because you've got to have goal scorers. Yeah. You've got to have goal scorers. If you don't have goal scorers, you don't win leagues. There's no doubt about that. And they've had injuries as well, which have been difficult to take. I think he's done really, really well. Really, really well. And if you supporters give him the full backing, like you've given me, because there's been games and I've been manager, it's been crap. It's been awful. But the fans keep coming and the fans keep backing the players, and the fans have backed me. Backed me. Everyone, and I'm sure they do, has got to give Darren the same backing that I've had. I think he deserves it. He's a young manager. He's got energy, enthusiasm. It's a hard job being a manager. It's a hard job. It grinds on you. And you can say for the first 6 months, it's great. Then for the first up to 10 months, it's great. But how many managers lose their job between 14 and 18 months? Because after a while, they get exhausted. They can't deal with it anymore. It drains of energy and enthusiasm. And he needs help. This little break would have given him a massive help. But it's the same for all the managers. And then when people start getting on your case and moaning and complaining on social media and doing all that crap, it's not really support. It's just negative criticism. I don't think he's getting that. I hope he's not. And I think if you get behind him, I would put Barnet as favourites right up there in that top 4 to be challenging to get promoted back to the Football League next season.
Right, now I'll head back to the questions before we get waylaid again. Right, next one from Rob Hammond. Would you manage again, and would a return to Barnet be of interest?
Thanks, Rob. I'm not sure I actually want to at the moment. I do quite a lot of. I'm lucky. I'm really, really lucky. Really lucky to do other things. I work at all West Ham's home games, doing their hospitality, which is meeting and greeting people and chatting with people and just having generally a nice time meeting West Ham supporters and watching the game. So I enjoy doing that on their home games. When I don't do that, I work for the Premier League, and I do referee performance assessments at Premier League level. Yeah. I do that 2 or 3 times a month. So with the West Ham games and that, and then I have been working at little bits at Talk Sport, which is little, but more. I've been working at a new radio station, which is now no longer a new radio station called Love Sport Radio, based in central London. So I've been going in there 2 or 3 times a week. It doesn't pay much money, but it just sort of kept me ticking along, kept my mind in good order. And I kind of, for the first time in my whole life, I've never had it. I've been able to have what we call a nice life, where it's not been dependent on a Saturday result, not got a win, not waking up at 4:30 on a Saturday morning and walking the dog over the farmers' fields just to get myself, because I can't sleep. So it's actually been a nice, healthy time, and my well-being as a person now is my most important. Returning to Barnet, I've never even given it a moment's thought. I promise you now. I just want to see Barnet go on and do well. Mr. Cleanthos, he invites me every now and then to a game at home, to go for dinner and to watch the game. But I don't want to do that. That's no disrespect to him or the players or the supporters. If I go back there and they don't play well and they don't win, all sorts of speculation, it'll be rabid. I don't want any of that for Darren, for anyone. My time's been done. I'm happy with what I've done. And it's for the best for me to leave it. And one day I'll come back. Obviously, I'd love to come back. I just don't think it's right for Darren, the players and the supporters. I just don't think it's right. It's not the right thing for me to do at the moment.
Right, next one from Lee Hyams. In my eyes, for winning the league, you're up there with Barry Fry as one of the best managers at Barnet in 30 years. Do you feel you could have taken Barnet higher than League Two had you stayed? And do you regret the move to Chesterfield, where in hindsight it was a bit of a failure and Bees fans would have loved you to have stayed?
What was the first question again? Sorry.
Do you feel you could have taken Barnet higher than League Two had you stayed?
Yeah, we had a decent team there. That win at Plymouth on that night, I had to sit up in the director's box because I've been warned by the consultants that my heart wasn't quite right and there were problems, which is scary.
Yeah.
That's scary in itself when you're told. I was just getting out of breath all the time, so I had to go just to the local doctor, and then the doctor sent me to a consultant, and the consultant sent me for MRI scans. This is all while I was managing at Barnet. No one knew. It was all private and quiet. I don't mean private elf scheme. It was like on the NHS, but I kept it private from everybody because I didn't want anyone to know that my heart was. I had an irregular heartbeat in one of my chambers, which is scary.
Mm.
No, that team was good. That win that night was amazing, and we came away from there thinking, flipping hell, we could be onto something. But again, the next part of that to take that on is good recruitment and keeping your best players.
Yeah. And
the problem you're always going to have, is that bigger clubs can pay bigger money for your better players. Fact. And unfortunately for Barnet fans, that is the way it is. You're never going to change that unless some billionaire buys Barnet. And Tony's does okay, but he ain't a billionaire.
No.
So that's the first part. I do think we could have gone on and done well. And I think we'd have always, a challenge for the playoffs would have been close, for sure. What was the next part of that question?
Do you regret the move to Chesterfield, where in hindsight was a bit of a failure and Bees fans would have loved you to have stayed and carried on?
Yeah, but at the time, I wasn't. At the time, I didn't have a contract, so
yeah.
So there's a bit of a catch-22 there. And when you say that was a bit of a failure, in my mind, it wasn't a bit of a failure. Not in my mind. When you've got to save £27,000 a week and put a team together, you're doing okay.
In that, yeah.
I never had centre forwards. If we'd have had centre forwards, we didn't lose for God knows how many games. We just couldn't score. Didn't score.
Yeah.
In my last game there, I had the youth team centre forward playing centre forward, and a kid that had been playing in the lowest non-league football up north you've ever known. So they were my two centre forwards. So we weren't far. If I'd had two centre forwards, that group, that would have definitely been a top 5 team without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. But I never had the centre forwards, never had the budget to be able to bring in the centre forwards. If you don't bring in goal scorers, you don't win. We sold our centre forward for a 6-figure sum to Notts County. And he subbed to Notts County, but every time he comes on, he scores. If we'd have kept him, but we couldn't, he had to go. He needed the money.
Okay. Right, a few here from James Collins. First one from the Championship season. Andy Yidam, the best player in his eyes. Do you agree?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, what a player. Oh. I'll go and watch him play now sometimes for Reading in the Championship.
Yeah.
And I sit there in the director's box looking down, and I don't watch the game. I just watch Yidam. The thing about him, hopefully, I'm sure most fans could see this. He'd start right side midfield.
Yeah.
And if we were winning, he could go and play right back. If we needed a goal, I could put him central midfield or as number 10. And he could play any position that you wanted. And bright and absorbing. He was a sponge for information and knowledge. If you needed a goal, you could push him up. If you needed to defend, you could bring him back. He had something different about him. And he would come in my office, right? He would come in my office. He said, "Can I have a word?" Knock on the door. He said, "Can I have a word?" So I said, "Yeah, come in." And he'd push the door. He'd come in early. No one else would be there. And he'd say, "Why did you do that?" I, "What?" He said, "Why did you do this? It might be a substitution, or why did you change it whilst the game was going on? Why did you do that?" So I said, "Why? Why are you asking?" He said, "Well, I don't think it was right." So I said, "Right. What? He's only young, by the way, young boy still. He's not old, is he?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, as soon as you've done that," he said, "you gave the other team the momentum to come at us." He said, "We should have carried on attacking them." He said, "And that substitution you made," he said, I don't think you should have done that." He said, "You could have done it like this, and that would have been better for our team." And I'd sit there and I thought, I like you. I liked it. I liked it that he had that, not the guts, but that mental side.
Yeah.
And his opinion, he would voice his opinion. He wouldn't sneak round the corner and talk in the car or in the cafe. He'd come in. Yeah. And I liked it that I had that relationship with him. And often in touch with him, regular text messages with him, and keeping an eye on what he does and how he plays. Very, very, very proud of him. Very proud. Good player.
Right, next one from James was, what was the reason for releasing Jamal Lowe?
Oh. Yeah, good question. Oh, blimey. I couldn't get Jamal into the 16 players.
Yeah.
He got disappointed, which is understandable. His attitude was okay. He wasn't a bad egg. He wasn't a bad lad. He was a nice lad. He was frustrated, though, that he couldn't get into the group. It was as I said, it was a very tight group.
Yeah.
When he went out on loan, he done okay, but he didn't do great because we had him watched. When he came back to training, he was a bit despondent, which is understandable. And yeah, all right. Then a couple of practice games, he done well. He done really well. A couple of training games, like 11v11. But he hadn't really shown enough. And then when we came towards the end and we were looking at players to let go and players to keep, we had a meeting with John Nurse and with Stacky. And John Nurse said, not sure. I said no,
Yeah.
new contract, and Stacky said sign him.
Right.
What? He said sign him. He's got ability. He's got proper ability. He said, I think we're making an error by letting him go. He said we should give him a chance. And I said, well, Stacky, I said, he walks around with a miserable face. He's not happy. He said, the reason he's not happy is because you don't put him in. He said, if he was with the first team through pre-season and you had him involved, he said he would do something for us. And I said, no, I'm not having it. I can't see it. But because you've said it so positively, Stacky, I'll give him a bit more time. So we gave him a bit more time. And I said no, and I gave him a free. Mistake, definite mistake, down to me. That one's definitely down to me. Nursey was 50-50 on it because Nursey wanted him to be with us to see what his attitude and how he would play when he'd been with us and around me for a while, and I hadn't seen enough of it. More my focus was on winning the championship rather than looking after Jamal Lowe, although I did go and see him play, and like I say, he'd done okay. It was only the following season when he signed for Hampton that he done brilliant, and we went and watched him again, and it was like, oh my God, we couldn't afford him.
Yeah.
Not funny. My mistake, down to me.
Okay. Well, next one from Jim Kavanagh. Which of your former Bees players would you think likely to move into coaching? Obviously, we've seen Graham Stack at Watford already. What others do you think from your group might well go that way?
Oh, Yeardon will.
I knew you'd say that after the talk earlier.
Yeah, I talk to him about it regularly now, about getting his qualifications and going out to games. He's not sure that he wants to go down that road.
Okay.
But Yeardon would definitely fit in it. With Stack, it was obvious with Stack. I've never known a footballer work as hard as what he has. He's got his goalkeeping A license qualification, and he's got his outfield play FA A license qualification, and his wife also runs a travel company of her own.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
And on top of that, he's also set himself up a Graham Stack footballing academy.
Yeah,
himself.
Seen that as well. Yeah.
He started off with about 4 kids, and now he's got about 80. This, you might think this is a bit mad. I've met his children, and his children are impeccably well spoken, and their behaviour, they are absolute first class kids, right? Always smart, always well spoken. And if you watch through the Gateshead game, near the end on the pitch, at the end, after the end on the pitch, little daughter done an interview with BT Sport, and you think that's not luck that his children are so fantastic kids. They are fantastic kids. It's no surprise he's going to be a good manager or a good coach, and he's won the Premiership medal with Championship with Arsenal. He's won the Championship medal with Reading, and he's won the National League or Conference, whatever you call it, with. So now the fact he's moved on to Watford and done so well at Watford is absolutely no surprise. And top bloke here, Stack. Top bloke.
Okay. Right, now should we go next? Right, one from MCB from the Barnet message board. Criticism often levelled at Barnet is once promoted, never push on like a lot of clubs do. Some of the signings you made: Sean Batt, Tom Champion, Ben Tomlinson, Kevin Lisby, Gavin Hoyt, Luis Mwent, Connor Clifford didn't sign, Cook, Saville, Charlie Mack and Dave Stevens all went. Is it fair to say we were a little bit weaker after the summer transfer activity rather than stronger?
Yeah, I could fully understand those questions. Just take me through those players again, and I'll go through those players
Sean Batt,
as you say. Who?
Sean Batt.
Sean Batt,
Yeah.
as a bloke, an absolute diamond. I signed him because when he played for Orient away at Gillingham in a League Cup game on a Tuesday night, he scored 3 or 4 goals and he was unplayable. He was absolutely brilliant. It was like, oh my God. So when he came available, he was from North London, no relocation. It was affordable for us, and I thought he would do it. Great bloke, but sadly, he had too many injuries. And I'd never, ever, ever, to this day, ever have a bad word to say about him, because he worked as hard as he could. He trained as much as he could. But unfortunately, injuries took over. And it just didn't work. I think it'd be the first to say it didn't work out for him, which was sad because he's such a nice bloke.
Okay. Tom Champion?
Tom, yeah, I thought he done well for us, Tom. I thought he was a good player, can play different positions, good in the dressing room, good captain, good leader. Yeah, he done all right, Tom.
Ben Tomlinson?
Ben Tomlinson played for Lincoln against us, and he was absolutely superb. He scored, he made one. I put a name, marked him down, done a bit of research on him, came down here, and his personality and character didn't really fit into the group. He didn't improve the team. As much as I tried to help him on and off the field, sadly, it didn't really work out as he would have wanted it to, and I. But a great character, great around the place, but didn't improve us. No.
Kevin Lisby?
Saw him play. Good player. Probably just past his best. Didn't help us, but a great bloke.
Michael Nelson?
Good signing. Good player. Good person. Very professional. Knows the game. Good in the dressing room. Yeah, he done well for us.
And Gavin Hoyt?
Gav, pace, good going forward. Needed to replace Yeardom, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I need someone similar to Andy. Tight hamstring, nice lad. Done okay.
That's all the ones brought in, right? The ones that went, obviously, Luisma, we know, was going to go back to Spain, wasn't he?
No.
Okay.
Luisma signed his contract. I persuaded him at the end of the season to sign his contract. But his girlfriend was in Spain. And so he went back to Spain, had a month back over in Spain, came back over. First day of pre-season, there was a knock on my door at 7:30 in the morning. No one knocks on my door at 7:30 in the morning at the office at the Hive. I need to speak to you. Sit down. What's up? What's wrong? He said, I don't want to stay. I want to go back to see my family and my girlfriend. He said, I miss her. And I'm sorry, Martin. He said, but please let me go. What? He said, please let me go. So I was like, oh no. He was key to help us win games, because in the last 30 minutes when the game opens up and you give him some space on the ball, he can make things happen. And as a bloke, oh my God, an absolute diamond. So I'm looking at him and he's got tears in his eyes and I've got tears in my eyes. And I said, okay, I'll have to ask the chairman. So I rang Tony early in that morning, the chairman. I rang the chairman early morning. Luisma was sitting there. And I explained the situation and said, we've got to let him go. No fee, just let him go. He's done brilliant for us. And Tony then spoke to him and said, I wish you the very best of luck. I'll be around here for another hour. Tony wanted to shake his hand and thank him. So Tony came in, Luisma went and saw him, he terminated the contract. And it was very, very sad when he went, because we all loved him. I couldn't play him in all those games because for the first hour, it would be too much of a battle. But to bring him on, he was like diamond. So that was where Luisma was, and we missed him for sure.
Okay. Conor Clifford?
Connor had ideas about going back to Ireland, so I knew that was happening, and he was looking to get back there. He's gone back there now and done really well, so I'm really pleased for him. But he played in that Gateshead game, out of position on the left-hand side. But I knew that they were a passing team. They made all these passes in their own half. So I wanted to close them down and tackle as often as possible in the final third, and Connor was good at that. So we got as many tacklers into that team as possible, and then hoping for our flair players to come on and do a little bit later on.
Cookie?
Cookie. I think Cookie was an outstanding signing, good player, but just got tired as the season went on, as the games went on. In and around the club, in and around the dressing room, brilliant.
Jack Saville?
Jack Saville?
Yeah.
Jack done a good job. Great lad, Jack. Good left foot, good in the air. I'm not sure Jack's moved out of football now. He's gone on to other things. He's doing really well for himself. Still in touch with Jack. Good bloke, good person, and really like Jack. But I think his mind was starting to see other things, and he wanted to look in other directions.
Yeah. Okay. Charlie McDonald?
Charlie, injury with his knee, so we couldn't keep Charlie.
Okay. And Dave Stevens?
This is a 50-50 one, I've got to say. I've seen him play a few times. I always shake his hand. I'm not sure he's 100% with me, because I was thinking he was hoping he was going to stay. I just thought if we were going to crack on in the Football League, we'd need to try and find someone better. I'm not sure we did, or I did. Yeah. I probably should have done more regarding helping Dave. So yeah, 50-50, sort of could have kept, should have, could have kept Dave.
Okay, right. Next couple from Lucy Walden. Favourite signing in black and amber?
Say that again.
Favourite signing in black and amber?
I'm terribly sorry, but it cut out a little bit and you sounded like a Dalek.
Right. Favourite signing?
My favourite signing?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay, well, I'm looking at this team now that we picked out earlier. So within that would have to be Ian Hendon. I think he would be there. King would have to be there. Hatch would have to be in there. Grazioli would have to be in there. Akinde would have to be in there. I think my favourite signing. I think my favourite signing has got to be John Akinde. It's got to be. We've got a special relationship, me and John. I love him, and he hates me. Yeah, I love him. I absolutely love him. As a person, you couldn't meet a nicer bloke. Absolute diamond bloke. Polite, well-mannered, well brought up, educated, further education, everything. Laid back, confident, calm, laid back. I think the other players will probably tell you, I probably have rows with him more than all the other players put together. I used to get on to John Akinde. For the team. How many times I've stood in front of him with my shirt off at half time, challenging him in front of all the players for not doing enough. He hates me and I love him. And then he'd score in the second half. He'd score. We'd win 1-0, and he'd look at me and give me a dirty look. And I just sit down and say, yes, it's worked. No, him. Free transfer from Alfreton. I went up to watch him play for Alfreton against Grimsby in the playoffs on a Sunday afternoon. I drove up there. Someone said it was luck that I signed John Akinde. No, it was a Sunday. I drove to Alfreton, which is north of Nottingham. And there he was playing for Alfreton. And I said to the chairman, we need to sign this player. He will make a difference to our club. And Mr. Cleanthos got him down and signed him. And he was part-time at Alfreton. Everybody was watching him, but we got him. Great. He was brilliant. For that spell we all had together, he was brilliant.
Okay. And away from football, has lockdown forced you to take up any new hobbies?
Perfectly honest with you, but I'm bored now.
like the rest of us. Yeah.
I am bored. No, but to be honest, for the first part of it, I got into a nice routine because everybody said get in a routine, follow the routine, and take the dogs for a walk.
Yeah.
Ride your bike. Do the garden. Who are you smiling at?
Sorry, one of my daughters just coming in. That's a.
And do as much as you can, and then have a bit of lunch, have a nap, and then watch something on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then at tea time, take the dogs for another walk, come home, watch telly, go to bed. I was okay with all that. I quite enjoyed it. And I was fine with it all. The garden looked fantastic. Got cuts all over the place. Loved it. Because I do like my gardening. It's my pride and joy, really. And then it got to 3 weeks. It's like being on a 3-week holiday. You're away from home for 3 weeks. And how wonderful. But when you're coming towards the end of your 3 weeks or your 2 weeks holiday, I normally go for 10 nights on holiday, or 2 weeks, maybe if I'm lucky. And when you're coming home, or the last few days of your holiday, you can't wait to get home because you want to go back to work. You want to get back into it. Well, it got to 3 weeks and I was thinking, I want to go out. I want to do something, you know. So it's been the last few days I ain't been great, to be fair. I'm fed up with being around here. My garden, I don't think there's too much more I can do in my blinking garden. But let's not joke about it. Let's have to be realistic. And God bless how many people, over 20,000, I believe, have now lost their lives. A lot more people seriously ill. I suppose we should be very grateful for being able to do our garden and being able to walk the dogs and to be able to do this afternoon. We should be all very grateful and thankful that we can do it. So no, I shouldn't be perhaps complaining. Let's just hope all this settles down as quick as possible, and all of our lives can get back to normal.
Fingers crossed. Right, next one. Right, from Reckless. Sure you know who Reckless is.
He's a nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Very good friend of mine. Right, favourite chocolate digestive, milk or dark?
Dark.
Okay, there you go, Reckless. Dark. Right, next one. Lloyd Debenham. What do you feel are the key factors in developing a winning mentality, and how did you achieve it at Barnet?
Oh God.
Some good questions, weren't there?
Look, when we agreed to do this, I knew and I know there's a lot of people naffed off with my decisions and my choices to leave your football club.
Yeah.
I know that. But it's no point in me sitting at home, hiding and turning my back on everybody and just thinking, screw you lot. There's no point. Life's too short for that. So hopefully this afternoon we faced up to a lot of honest questions and give an honest
definitely.
answer back and an explanation. Whether my explanation is acceptable is, of course, everybody's choices. But I'm glad you've given me this opportunity to actually, clear stuff up or explain. I'm not sure it's going to clear stuff up anyway. When it's your love, you get hurt. It's not nice. What was your question? You look like Michael Gash.
Huh?
You look like Gash.
I look like Michael Gash. I'll take that as a compliment.
What was the last question?
From Lloyd? What do you feel are the key factors in developing a winning mentality, and how did you achieve it at Barnet?
That's a good question, Lloyd. Winning mentality. What we've tried to do Lloyd, on my first day, there was a meeting behind that club shop. There's a meeting room. So we had all the players in there for a 10:30 meeting, first day. So as the players were coming in, I was shaking all their hands. Everyone came in. As soon as my watch hit 10:30, I shut the door and locked it. I started to welcome everybody, explain who I was and what I wanted to do and how we were going to go about our business. And about 4 minutes after the 10:34, there was a knock on the door and someone was pushing the door trying to get in. So I went across to the door, unlocked the door, opened the door just a little bit, and two players were stood there. I'm not going to tell you who they are. They went, can I come in? I went, no. Huh? Can I come in? No. Don't come back. Shut the door, locked the door, and carried on talking. So, half hour later, when I'd finished, those two players were at my office door. One of them knocked, came in, said, I'm sorry for being late. So I said, all right, why are you late? He said, blah, blah, blah. He said, just was, I didn't know about the meeting. So I said, well, we don't do that here. If I say 10:30, you're here at 10:30, or you're at 10:25 for a 10:30 meeting. That's how it works. Yeah. Don't ever be late again. The other one just stayed outside my door and didn't come in. So after a few minutes, I said, listen, what are you waiting for? He said, I'm waiting to see you. So I said, well, listen, 10:30 is 10:30. Don't ever be late again. And the eyes, if you know what I mean. So from that point, we tried to get into everybody that with free kicks and corners and set plays and general play and team meetings and travel on buses, if you're going to be late off the field, you'll be late on the field. That was my mentality. So we tried to set that in. And then when we come to drills and practices, if they didn't perform in the drills, I just sent them home. If they didn't do it, I just sent them home. Just before we played one of them games, or just after that Luton game, we'd lost. I wasn't very happy. Played okay away at Luton.
Yeah.
But on the Monday morning, training started at 10:30, and I used to put a sign up on the wall. Training starts 10:30. Out for training 10:15. Out for training 10:15. Training starts 10:30. So that means you get out there at 10:15 and you get moving. Do you know what I'm saying? You get moving. Get on the buzz light. Get ready for it. Anyway, I come out of my office, walk down there, bang on 10:28. the king has arrived, if you know what I mean. All the players are looking round at me because I've got my face on. 10:30 start, and a player walks down at 10:31. But the key thing is, he never had any socks on. He had his football boots on, and they weren't done up. The laces weren't tied up.
So he was very late anyway.
1 minute. So everyone's together. He walks in. I'm not going to tell you who it is. I won't say who it is. That's not right.
No, yeah, that's fine.
So I said, where's your socks? He said, I ain't got no socks. I said, what do you mean you got no socks? He said, I ain't got no socks. I said, why haven't you got no socks? He said, I don't know. I said, why haven't you done your boot laces up? He went, I just don't. I said, okay. I'll tell you what, you go home now, and don't come back. If you can't be bothered to dress properly and do your boots up, how can I expect you to perform for us? Don't ever come back here again, and we'll carry on paying you. Just go. Don't come back. So he went, and I explained to all the players, we have to have high standards on and off the pitch. So to answer Lloydie's question, I suppose they're the sort of things that you have to put in place. And then after that, you've got to, as a coach or manager, be able to give your players a game plan of what you want them to do. So if you're a right back, where you want him to pass it? Do you want him to go long ball, diagonals to the far post all the time, or down the channels? Or do you want him to play a bit? How do you want it to go? You have to do that with every player. And as a coach, as I have to do, you have to stand in the middle with your whistle and you have to put it into them and drill them and drill them and drill them without opposition and then with opposition. And then you have to do your set plays for and against. And if anybody don't do it how you want it, you get them off. You get them out of the way. You just get the people in there that want to play for you, that want to listen to you, that want to do it, that want to do it, want to have that commitment. And then after that, Lloyd, the only best thing you can ever give any people, whether it's in football or whether it's wherever you work or whatever you do, or your children, it's self-belief and confidence. And if you haven't got that as a teacher or a leader, then you're useless. You've got nothing. And if you lose that self-belief, then you're fit for nothing, really, in leadership and management. And that's what I said about earlier, about backing and supporting Darren and not getting on these social media things and knocking him and having a go at people. Be good to them and look after them and encourage them. And when we lost at Luton that day, it was disappointing to lose, but I hugged every one of them and said, fantastic, we'll carry on now. These are the standards. And being positive and positive outlook, PMA, I used to call it, positive mental attitude, and looking forward and looking up rather than looking down. And if you drill that into people, and you've got some decent players, of course, then you've always got a chance of winning.
Okay. Right, last couple then from Pete Williamson. Are you a nostalgic guy? Love the bowling and Underhill, or understand the need to move to the Hive and London Stadium?
No, I am full of nostalgia, to be honest. I was there on the last night at Upton Park. When the lights went off, literally, there was a few tears in my eyes as I came home. So many good memories there of playing, of course, and with my dad coming to watch me, and my dad's final games until he passed away when I was at West Ham. So no, massive memories. Underhill, I just love Underhill. I just love it. I just love Underhill. Never forget that place. Never, ever, ever. Whenever I go around that way, not all the time, but there's times where I nip round there and have a little look. No, magical place, magical times. The new grounds, the new stadiums, the London Stadium's so different to what it used to be. It's very difficult at the moment with the team not being so good. But as we know, a good team at a new stadium and everyone's happy. A new stadium and the team's crap and no one's happy. It's the same at London Stadium or the Hive. So you've got to remember, we had a fantastic few good crowds at the Hive. It can be done. It will be done again. There will be, and I'm sure this manager is going to take Barnet back up into the Football League. That place will be packed. And without a shadow of a doubt, I'll be there somewhere in a corner watching that game when Darren Curry takes Barnet back up into the Football League, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, Edgar was there for you, wasn't he, when you took us back up?
Pardon?
I said Edgar was there for you when you took us back up.
Yes.
Okay, right, last one. With all the TV documentaries that go on and players posting social media pictures from inside the dressing room, should the changing room remain a closed sanctuary for players and coaches and not be shared everywhere?
I don't think they should let it in when I've been letting loose a few times. Well, I've been on that Netflix stuff. Man City, I've seen their one. I've seen some of the Sunderland one. Who else is on there? Netflix for those clubs?
Don't know. There's a Tottenham one coming on Amazon, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, that's it. That's it. Amazon stuff. Yeah, I've seen all the Man City one. I couldn't believe the footage that they got inside that dressing room. Unbelievable. When we played Gateshead, you'll see the TV footage. When it came to the end of the game, they were desperate at the end of the game to come in and meet all the players and see what was being said. And I left them out in that corridor and said, there ain't no way you are coming in this door. That was special to us. It wasn't something to be shared, with all due respect to the public and the Barnet fans. If you've seen the BT broadcast, you know, they're trying desperately to get in. But it was no, it's
right, a couple of quick ones from you. Best memories at Underhill?
Wait there.
Okay.
Wait there. Bill, shush.
There we go. Interrupted by the dog.
Don't worry about that.
That's all right.
I had a cup of coffee and a bottle of water, so
fantastic.
The loo call.
Right, yeah, best memories of Underhill.
Hereford game, winning 1-0.
Yeah.
First manager's game, unbelievable atmosphere. All the balloons on the yellow balloons on the pitch from the Hereford fans, beating them, champions. The people in the stand behind me, on my right shoulder, up here.
Yeah.
And they used to be quiet, quite quiet, because it was the people opposite that used to sing all the time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I remember turning round and looking up at them with that horrible face and going, come on, let's hear. And they would all start singing. Oh my God, the atmosphere. It's a smaller office than what I've got here. It's the smallest office you've ever seen at Underhill, right on the side of the dressing rooms. And those dressing rooms at Underhill and the little tea lounge next to it.
Yeah.
Magic. Just magic. Just the love of the old ground. I love the old grounds, the old traditions of the history. And Love Underhill. Love it.
And memories of the Hive?
Oh my God. Well, we trained there, didn't we, every day as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of special memories just through the work on the training pitches and the different sessions that we used to do with all those players and comings and goings. Memories of the Hive would be the Halifax game.
Yeah.
The drive home from the Halifax game. The determination in my mindset after the Halifax game of the culture change that was necessary. Gateshead.
Obviously, yeah.
Beating Bristol runners-up Rovers with 10 men. Tuesday night, I think it was. Magic.
Second game of the season.
Magic. You got to remember, well, you don't have to remember this, but their budget for what they had for players and what they were paying their players. People say, well, you didn't recruit and you didn't do this. But I would sit there and say, well, we'll offer you £800 a week to come and play for Barnet. And you've got to come and live in North London. Pay the rent, yeah. Right. And then they say, okay, I'm just going to go and talk to Bristol Rovers.
Yeah.
You say, okay, no problem. Okay, well, they've offered me £2,500 a week. Can you get anywhere near £2,500 a week? No. So it is interesting when somebody mentioned earlier today about player signings and recruitment. It's not always easy to sign the players that you actually want, because you can't afford them. You can't afford them.
Yeah. I mean, I know that having spoken to Darren and Ben this season, I know how difficult it is, and obviously having that insight is insight a lot of people don't get. So yeah, I understand that.
No, there was a player playing at Dartford who was a good player. Dartford,
yeah,
good player. I liked him, and so I spoke to him and said about coming to Barnet, and he went, "Well, I'm part time, and I earn that."
Yeah.
And I've got a job in the city and I earn this. So if you add those two together, can you get anywhere near that? And I'll come. I'd love to play for Barnet. He went, I said, well, you can have £1,000 a week basic salary. And he just laughed. He said, I ain't leaving. And that's, that happens quite a lot. You can get part-time players that prefer to stay part-time and have their job.
Yeah, to earn more.
And you just can't touch them. So it's not always your choice of players. It's what you can afford to bring in, and of course to pay to live in that area it's not cheap. So your hands are tied. Your hands can be tied.
Excellent. Any last thing you want to message for Barnet supporters before you go?
No, I suppose a couple of things would spring to mind that we've all probably mentioned in our chat this afternoon. It was to whether this season finishes or it doesn't finish, whatever. When the new season starts, it would be everybody, and we're all guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. Is to stay positive and give the manager as much backing and support as possible. So when the team loses, as they will, instead of getting on his case, you get behind him and get behind the players and give players support. Doesn't mean you have to love them up all the time. And of course, there's going to be times where you're disappointed and you think, what the hell's going on? It's normal. But give Darren the best chance you can of getting promoted. Because to see Barnet getting back into the Football League, you've got a better chance of that with a positive supporter than a negative supporter. Much better chance. So to all get behind the team and support him and the players more than him, of course, is going to be the key to getting Barnet out, because I think now you have got a good squad of players and some goal scorers that can take Barnet back. And with a former player, and I'd say he's a legend really, with Darren Curry doing it, I think would be amazing. And I guess, I suppose it's the last thing to say for the afternoon, and is to thank you for allowing me to come on and do this with you. I've really enjoyed it. And lastly, for everybody else, is to try and stay safe. And this lockdown is just keeping yourself busy, keeping doing things, and hopefully one day we can all get out of this and be safe and well, and save lives and look after each other.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Martin. Appreciate that.
Take care, you.